Hello everyone, and welcome to ML with Ron. And as you can see, this is the first video to my channel. And to give you a brief intro of myself, I am an ML engineer, and I mainly work with machine learning and artificial intelligence. So, and I bet you all have heard that artificial intelligence is climbing the global market, or like it is the learning curve of artificial intelligence is going really high. So now, why is that? Why is everybody talking about AI? Why is everybody using AI? So to initially explain what AI is, AI typically stands for artificial intelligence. And what does it mean? So the meaning is in the name itself, artificial intelligence. So it basically refers to the ability of a computer system to think and reason like a human brain. So now let us say I ask you, I present an apple to you, and I say, what is the color of this? You say red. And why is that? Because you were able to learn it initially, and now you look at the color and you're able to reason as to why it is an apple and why it is red. So in the same way, an artificial intelligence system knows how to reason and distinguish between certain entities. So I know that went in too technical, but I hope you've got the gist of it. So if I extend in simple terms, now let us say I I give you a cat and a dog. You as a human can distinguish between a cat and a dog because you know the features that a dog holds and the features that a cat holds, right? I mean, both of them have almost the same characteristics. That is, they have four legs, a tail, where they have whiskers, they have eyes, they have a snout. But what helps you as a human distinguish between an apple and a dog? That is the features, visual features, right? You as a human can just look at it and tell that it is a dog. So in the same way, a computer initially does not know the difference. It is like a newborn baby. It doesn't know anything. But when we induce artificial intelligence into the system, we then give it the ability to think and reason like a human being. I hope this has cleared the confusion, or if there was any confusion prior to this. All right. So now that we're mainly getting into AI and ML, we first have to satisfy the prerequisites of AI and ML. What are the prerequisites? It is one main big framework or language called Python. Python is a new world programming language which everyone is using it in the current day. So why is everyone using Python currently? The main reason for using Python is its versatility. That is, it is very simple. It is like speaking English. Initially, there were programming languages like C, C++, Java. They are simple too. I mean, if you're used to it, it is simple to you. It is like talking English. It's the same way. But what Python does is it breaks down a lot of syntax layers. Like, let's say if I wanted to write, now here I have a print statement, print A. That is it. Print is English. And I'm just passing the variable A to it. Now, if I had to do the same thing in Java, I would have to do system.out.println and say hello. You see, we're basically adding in so many other characters here which are not needed. So we are just avoid removing all this and passing in a simple word called print. So this is how Python helps the human. It helps him cut down time by programming, and it also helps him understand the code better, right? So why is Python a prerequisite for data science? So data science is basically the whole it is one whole template for AI, machine learning, deep learning, etc. You basically work with data, you engineer data, and you are basic with that data you are able to train artificial intelligence systems. So that is the entire framework, which we will get into. No worries, there are tons of videos about to come. But initially, this video is just focused on giving you an insight of Python. What is Python? Why is Python helpful? Where is it used? Who uses it? And what are its pros and cons, right? So initially, Python is a programming language which is very simple to the human for him to write, right? Secondly, who uses Python? Python is basically used by those engineers who are mainly into web development, AI ML, data science, data analysis, etc., etc., web development, designing, and other stuff, right? So initially, many other programming languages could satisfy these use cases. But as I said, Python has taken its place because of its ease of work, right? So essentially, that was an intro to Python. Now, who uses? Now, if I have to give you an example of which companies use Python, now you all know Google. Google uses Python. Why? To manage their internal tools. Like Google inside operates, there's a lot of operations happening inside Google. What we see is something that they are providing to us users. But what the engineers inside Google use are also developed through Python and for other AI applications. Google Gemini, that has been developed using Python. Now, web development, the web interface that we see on Google, there is a tinge of Python added to that as well. Now, Netflix. Now, let's say you open Netflix, you see a lot of movies and TV shows which are, catered to your viewing preference. Why is that? Or how is that done? That is basically done through data analysis, which is done through Python. So when we say this, Python is the backend for everything that you see or is associated with machine learning. Is that clear? Right. So I wouldn't see there are many Python tutorials out there. So if you really want to get into Python into full detail, there you can watch those videos and get back. But what I am doing here is basically giving you an insight of how Python is one of the main prerequisites to machine learning, right? So, and we will only, in this channel, we will only mainly be discussing the use of Python or the use of the Python syntax, which is only needed for machine learning and artificial intelligence and not very elsewhere, right? And for to people looking at this code and who are not able to understand this, this is just the beginning, and you don't have to be disheartened because to be a programmer, you don't have to break your head a lot. Because essentially, when you get into work, the syntax is basically the way you write the language, if I explain. So when we write English, when we write your name, let us say, for example, your name is Rohan, and you write Rohan, you write Rohan with R as a capital letter because it is a proper noun, and the remaining letters are small. So that is the syntax of writing English. The same way, there is a syntax of writing Python. And that syntax, whenever you're working with Python, that syntax can always be looked up on the internet. But what actually comes into play is how you break down the problem and how you approach the problem. So once you've broken down the problem and approached the problem, the syntax is not that big of a deal, right? You can just Google the syntax for whatever approach you're taking and just paste it. That is how it's going to happen. But essentially, how you break down the problem and how you analyze the problem is what matters the most. So you don't have to be disheartened if you don't understand the language, or you're not able to memorize the syntax, because that is not needed at all. All you need to know, or all you need to focus on right now, is how you process your brain or how you wire your brain into breaking the problem down, right? So if you can see here, just to give you a very basic abstract example, we have a variable called ARR. What is ARR? It is the name of a variable we give. So this is the basic Python syntax, right? Equal to is called an assignment operator. And whatever value we are assigning is assigned from the right to the left. So let us say I type something here. So I'll say sum is the name of the variable and equal to is the assignment operator. So what is the goal of sum? Sum should hold the value which we are going to compute. So let us say we are going to compute 5 plus 7. So the value on the right is assigned to the left. So sum now holds 5 plus 7, right? So the value, it is essentially equal to 12. So sum is holding that value 12. So now if I type print sum, it should give me, it should give me 12. And yeah, this hello and welcome, I just did that to make it look attractive, but I don't think it's pretty much. So what is happening here, if I explain, is, so you basically understood how assignments happen, right? So that is the same thing that is happening here. There is a value on the right that I'm giving as an array. I'm passing an array which has the values hello and welcome separately, right? Now this value ARR holds these three values, correct? And how does an array work? An array always starts with indexes, right? So each array starts with the zero index. So hello is currently stored in zero, and is stored in one, welcome is stored in two, right? And now here I take another variable called a. Why am I doing this? Because essentially I want to join hello and welcome. I want to put it into one sentence, as you can see here, right? So how can I do that? There is an inbuilt operation called join, right? So what I am doing now is I take this array as input and I use a join operation. So when I pass this array as input, currently we are taking hello and welcome separately. But when we use a join operation, we are joining them with a space. See, this is pretty simple. You don't have to, that is what I'm trying to say is you don't have to learn the word by word implementation. All you have to learn is how are you going to approach this problem. How did your mind work to come up with this? That is all you need to know, right? So yeah, now let us say I give you another example of working with integers, right? So now let us say I want to, okay, let's say I take another array, ARR, and I pass 1, 2, 3, right? So what is happening here? We are taking an array and we are passing 1, 2, 3 into that array, right? For now, let us say we want to print 1, 2, and 3 one after another. How do we do that here? In Python, we have something called loop operations, right? So what do you understand by a loop? A loop is something that goes around, or it goes in a circle. Let us say we start with 1, we come back with 1. It basically keeps looping through the same operation again and again until we give it an instruction to stop, right? So here we have 1, we have 2, we have 3. So let us say we want to print 1, 2, 3, one after another. All we can do is we can loop through this array. So for that we have something called for loop, right? For, we take a variable I in range of, yeah, print I. So what is happening here? Yep. So when we do that, we are basically printing the indices, right? So for I in range, range is what? A value from and to. So what is the range here? Here the range spans from 1 to 3, right? And when we say length, that is an object which basically calculates the length of the array, right? We are giving the array, we are calculating its length, and we are calculating the range, right? So when we do that, we are able to print the indices, right? Now let us say I want to print the values in those indices. 1, 2, and 3. It's just that simple. Honestly, it's not that hard. Coding is not that hard. It's just how you logically wire your brain. How you think of approaching this problem is all you need to learn. That is it. All you need is a pen and paper. That pen and paper will teach you logic and syntax. Of course, you will need to learn a bit of basic syntax, and there are roadmaps for that. But all you need to do is learn the logic. That is it. All right. So now that I've explained this basic array handling problem, and as I told you that logic building is directly proportional to your progress in programming. So let us discuss another problem in which we could tell you that I could show you that you can gradually build your programming knowledge, but logic is important. So now let us say the problem statement is you are a student and I want to, or let us say you're a teenager and you're about to enter adolescence. And you know that for a driver's license, you'll need to be 18 in India. So now let us write a program where we take your age from you as a user and we then compute whether you are eligible to have a driver's license or not, right? So initially, what is the main step? The first step is taking your age as a user. How are we going to do that? We're going to, as I told you, we're going to assign that value to a variable. So int input, enter your age, right? So what are we doing here? We are basically input is a function it is an operation in Python where you can directly take the input from the user. So here we have specified int because we want to take the age from the user and age is always an integer value. If we had not specified int, then by default the input function takes a string as an input, right? So now what this is going to do is this is going to take, if I have to demonstrate how this works, then let me show you. So why am I saying print str again? Because the value of your input is assigned to the str variable. So if I print, I will have to print this. So now when I hit the run button, it asks me to enter your age. Let us say I enter 22, and so it prints 22. Understood? Clear? So now that this is done, what we can do is we can start our computation. So what is again, what did I say is the minimal age to get a license in India? It is 18. So what we can do is we have something called an if condition in Python, right? So if is something called a conditional statement. What is a conditional statement? It is either, what is a condition basically? Either this or that, or this and that, something. You're basically implying a condition on something, right? So here what I can imply is if your age. All right, so let us make it simpler. Let us store your age in a variable called age, right? Now, if age is less than equal to is less than, if age is less than 80, right? So the reason I wrote less than over there was to tell you that this operator performs less than, right? So it was just a big an English representation of that. So if age is less than 80, then we print saying, sorry, you are not eligible for a license, right? Now, this was if his age was less than 18. Now, what if his age is equal to 18, right? Elif, your age is greater than 17. What does greater than 17 mean? 18 and above, right? If I said greater than equal to 17, then it would imply 17 and above. But because I'm saying greater than, it is 18 and above. So, right? So if age is greater than 17, Then what we can do is print congrats, congrats, you are of age and for a license, right? So now what this does, let us run it. Enter your age. Let us say I enter 15, which is ineligible. It says, sorry, you are not eligible for a license. Let me run it again. And let us say I enter 27. You are, congrats, you are of age and are eligible for a license. Now, what we can do is we could make this a bit more interactive. We could ask you for your name, right? And as I told you, if you do not specify any data type, it takes by default, it takes an input as a string. So I could ask you your name, right? Then we can write sorry, right? So we can say, hey, there's something called an f string in Python. So what we can do now is we can say sorry and pass my name. And we can also say congrats and pass my name. So what happens here is, so enter your name, Rohan, enter your age. I'm 22 years old. Congrats name, you're of age. So essentially what happens is, all right, I forgot to add the F here. So let us say Rohan 22. It says, congrats Rohan, you are of age and are eligible for a license. So that is how Python can get interactive. And again, this is just a very basic pictorial representation of how your logic can directly change what kind of outcomes you get from your program and how you can improve the interactivity of your program, right? So yeah, this was a very basic, uh, you know, introduction to Python. But this was just to tell you that you do not have to worry about how where you are on your graph of coding skills. You can improve by just following through the course or just following through any video that you watch. All you'll have to do is code along and understand why, what, and how things are happening, right? Now, when I wrote congrats name, I passed the name variable here. Why did I do that? Because I stored my name in this variable, and if I want to display my name in the output terminal, I would have to pass that variable in my print statement. That is why and how it happened, right? Cool. So I gave you an example of looping statement, conditional statement, input output, and the basic data types, right? So this is the basics you would have to know. And what we do further is going to be completely related to machine learning. And this was just to explain the basics of Python, right? So now if you would like to start working with Python the way I am, so you could start working with an IDE of your own choice. Right here, I'm using VS Code, and so the full form of this is Visual Studio Code, and it is a Py- it is an IDE text editor where we can work with multiple programming languages, right? So I mainly work with this because I really like the interface and I find it really easy to work with, and I've been working this for a very long time, right? So I'm using this, but you can personally use anything you'd like. So just to give you an intro, like just to let you know how you could download this is you could go onto your web browser and you could type in Visual Studio Code download and go to the first link and just download for Windows. But since I already have it for downloaded, I wouldn't have to do this. or you could also go for PyCharm Community Edition. This is the free edition of PyCharm, which you could use as a student, right? Yeah. So this was it. And again, now now how do we operate inside VS Code? So let us say you were completely new to VS Code, you just opened it from scratch. What you could do is all you have to do is go to File, and before doing that, just always create a work directory before you open VS Code, right? So I have a work directory called ML projects where I do all my work related and my personal projects or any, see, coding is my hobby. So I just keep doing stuff. So I just have a folder here called ML projects, and inside this I have a lot of stuff, right? So yeah, so what you could do is you could go and create something and go here, select the folder, and we've entered the folder called by YouTube. This is the folder where I'm going to be working on all my YouTube projects. This is my first, but many more are yet to come. Now, again, one way was that, or second way you could do is you could open up a terminal. And now that my terminal is already open here, and I am inside my YouTube directory, we could use our operating system or terminal commands like cd. What is cd? It stands for change directory. That is, now let us say you are in the current directory called YT. Now you want to map inside YT and go to intro to Python. What you can do in is just go intro to Python. So here what I did was I just typed intro, intro, and when I press tab, it maps me to the directory which is present inside YT. So when I press enter, I have now mapped into intro to Python. Now I just do code dot and I'm in. So we also have Copilot access here, which is the GitHub Copilot. So where you can, it is the AI which could help you with coding in VS Code. So yes, now that we're inside, we can close this. Yes, so we are inside the intro to Python directory, and here is our program. So yeah, this was a demonstration of how you could use your IDE and in the intro to Python. So I hope you liked and learned something from this video. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And please wait for more. Thank you so much.